Before we get into the latest Bengals rumors, including some trade rumors, if you liked that Bengals win over the Seahawks, to get into the bye on a positive note, which I think every single person should be, it's a win in the NFL, then like today's video right now. We begin with a familiar face. Could Samaje Perine potentially come back to Cincinnati? The Broncos are clearly sellers at the moment, and Perine, in part because of the emergence of Lil McLaughlin, has fallen out of favor in Denver. Meanwhile, back in Cincinnati, the team has yet to properly replace Perine in that third down back role that kind of doesn't really exist anymore in this offense. So with a feasible trade cost, contract cost, and a need for a team that doesn't do very many trades, I do think Perine is a very logical target for the Bengals to consider. So far this year in Denver, Perine's not been that great. 24 carries, 88 yards, a fumble, 3.7 yards per carry. He has seen his production regress. He has not been that great. He's pretty clearly the number 3 back in Denver right now, and given the fact that the Broncos are sellers, they have Dwayne Washington, they can always, add another young piece, call up Tyler Batty from the practice squad. It would make sense to get what you could and save a little bit of money along the way. Perine was much better in Cincinnati after he originally joined midway through the 2019 season, where he was predominantly a core special teamer. He carved out a role as the number 2 back and the third down back for a Bengals team that doesn't really have one of those on the roster. He was reliable and steady in 2022, in 2021. It is why Sean Payton and the Broncos went after him in free agency. But now, for a team that's just not very good and has a fun UDFA piece that plays a very different style of third down back role, shopping Perine is absolutely in the cards for Denver. In Cincinnati, meanwhile, Joe Mixon, I think, has been a very solid player so far this year. But it's the other backs, Trayveon Williams, Chris Evans, Chase Brown. They haven't really done that much so far this year. Mixon's numbers have kind of regressed in large part to a not-so-great game against Seattle. But he's had some good ideas from that, or good results from that perspective. Like he's had success this season, but it's behind Mixon that there's just massive unknowns. So would you trade for Samaje Perine? Y for yes, N for no. This is going to be today's pinned comment. Some more conversation on it still to come, but I want to hear your thoughts at the pinned comment. If the ad comes on YouTube, cool. Take advantage. Go comment instead. Y for yes, N for no. I think it's pretty clear with the usage of these backs, as we'll get into. There is no trust behind Joe Mixon between Trayveon Williams, or I guess in the grouping of Trayveon Williams, Chase Brown, and Chris Evans. That third down backfield role, the one that we talked a lot about in the preseason and training camp of who's going to be your third down back. You don't trust Mixon in pass protection. He's been better this year, by the way, in that area. It's why his snap count is up this year. His percentage is up kind of significantly so far this season. There's not a lot of trust. It's almost like they pull Mixon when they have to because he needs a breather. These snap counts do not lie. Joe Mixon is getting 74% of the snaps for Cincinnati. That is a career high by a pretty decent percentage. It's actually, as we'll get into, among the league leaders. Trayveon Williams has played 17.5%. He's the number 2 back, and they're barely utilizing Chris Evans and Chase Brown. Chase Brown's kind of a backup right now. He needs some more time, and they don't really trust Evans outside of pass catching, as has been the case for a while. The snap count leaders, meanwhile, at the running back position, Joe Mixon is 6th. And what maybe raises some, red flags for you is, 2 of the top 3 guys on that list are hurt right now. Kyren Williams got hurt this week, so did Christian McCaffrey. Travis Etienne's been playing well. Bijan Robinson, Josh Jacobs are focal backs. This is some of the better backs so far in the NFL. And then it's Joe Mixon who's kind of playing there out of necessity. So Perine does make sense to me. And the contract is doable, even for a team tight against the cap or choosing to be tight against the cap. They've got $1.5 million due this year in total. That number isn't the full number the Bengals would owe, it's divided by 17, so you call about $1 million, if that, to Perine, and a non-guaranteed $3 million next season. I don't think that's that bad at all for Perine if he wants to come back home to Cincinnati. The trade details I've cooked up here, and maybe it's just a 7th-round pick that goes to Denver, but this has been the popular trade so far this year. You swap a future 6th and a 7th. That's been the common move so far as of late, of just getting players out there and dumping pieces you don't want, taking anything back in exchange. And there it is. A 7th-round pick in Perine to Cincinnati for a 6th-round pick for Denver. Maybe it's a little bit more. I don't think it'll be that much. Now, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It is just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, pros, sharks, you just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in. You can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Now, I'd missed some in recent weeks, so I did take the coward's way out and take the flex play on my picks this week, but it hit as a result. Trevor Lawrence did play well against the Colts, but that game was over by the 3rd quarter, so the less than hit. But Kenneth Walker touchdowns, check. Cooper Kupp more than receiving yards, check. Hit the flex play. Just needed 2 correct to turn my $10 into $12.50. That's fine. I'll take that. Do that every single time? Oh boy, now you're cooking with some gas right there. Plus, you get a deposit match with Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. The link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. Again, that is prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Let's stick with some trade conversations here. Could the Bengals go out and acquire a tight end? Not a new theory, idea, talking point, been mentioned by many out there, even in the Bengals reporting field, because this ain't working. Irv Smith, Drew Sample, Mitchell Wilcox, Tanner Hudson on the practice squad. That grouping has not performed at the level that they need to. So far this year, 24 targets across the board to all those different tight ends in Cincinnati. They have 16 catches for 107 yards. There's been no touchdowns. There's been I think there have been more drops, touchdown catches. It has not been good enough. Hayden Hurst has not been that great in Carolina. I think he got overpaid by them. I get that. But the Irv Smith idea has just not panned out at all. If you can find a better piece at tight end, I think that will help your passing game as you play better teams down the stretch here. Spend some more on ideas, some targets I've got in mind here. But would you trade for a tight end? 1 for yes, 0 for no. 3 names I think you could maybe consider here. We mentioned Mike Gesicki last week. Still stands out as a target because the Patriots suck. Zach Ertz, the money's an issue, but he's a great trade deadline target. Veteran, still playing pretty solidly. And if the Cardinals need some money, very doable there. Mo Alley Cox has fallen out of favor in Indy, and a former 3rd-round pick, Trey McKitty of the Chargers, is basically not playing all that much. So if you want a Bengals trade targets video, since we're in the bye week here, then make sure you subscribe. YouTube.com/BengalsTV. Free Bengals videos for you when you hit that sub button. Over to the roster now, on the roster itself. Nick Scott and Jordan Battle. Well, I think I was maybe wrong about this one. Pre-game show, I'm like, the Bengals are going to keep giving more time to Jordan Battle, and they'll make the flip after the bye week. Well, not the case against the Seahawks. Nick Scott played almost every single snap on defense. It was 7 snaps in total for Jordan Battle, who did have 2 tackles in that time frame, which is very good, don't get me wrong. I don't think Nick Scott played that great, but after defense coordinator Lou Anarumo said, hey, we're going to give Jordan Battle some playing time, they didn't. So maybe that changes in the bye. Still could be, I'm actually okay still doing that, but I'm not as convinced it's going to happen when Battle played less snaps this week. So pick a safety. Who do you want to be safety number 2? JB for Jordan Battle, NS for Nick Scott. Sound off in the comments section. More injury news here. Orlando Brown suffered a groin injury. Now, he said he will be back after the bye week. I want to believe Orlando Brown. I think we also have to have the conversation of how do you replace him if he's not back after the bye week. The options are as follows. Deontay Smith was inactive against the Seahawks, but I would not be surprised if he got the first crack at it. Cody Ford, I don't think was bad. I thought he did a fine-ish job subbing in at left tackle. The Cordell Volson problem remains here, but I don't love him on the left side. You could play Jackson Carman over there, which I hate, by the way. I don't think that's a great idea. You could flip Jonah Williams over there, but I would only do that if you're worried about it being a long-term groin injury. If it's like a game or maybe two, I think it makes a lot more sense to plug a backup in and keep some chemistry and consistency and stability on the right side of your offensive line.